good? That's good. Yeah, I'm good.
You had to think about it for a minute.
Well, dude. But being the chair of the chamber now, I feel like I can't. You have to be really careful. Anyway.
Quiet sets in over the room. Yes, thank you very much. Thank you for coming out. Welcome to McMinnville City Club and tonight the McMinnville Area Chamber of Commerce's joint presented pub chat, where we're going to feature the mayoral candidates in a lively debate. Thank you for coming tonight. I am the current City Club President, Zach Gary. Hosted one of these last week, and we've come to have kind of our hallmark season events as these pub chat debates and luncheon debates as well. So we are really proud and excited to bring them to you. Like I mentioned, we are partnering tonight on the debates as we have for the last few years, and hopefully to continue to partner with McMinnville's Chamber of Commerce, which may be why some of you are out tonight. They help by putting our heads together collectively and coming up with a list of questions we find is relevant not only to City Club members, but to Chamber of Commerce members. So we've come together to formulate a host of questions that we will ask of our candidates tonight that are relevant both to the city needs as well as business ideas. So we are going to feature many of those. Tonight we are streaming live on the internet, I'm told. That you can do that, and we are doing it right now. So potentially in the way back, if you have a question about somebody who's not in the room that you can't stand and despise and name names, they will hear it. Jerry, I'm thinking about you, man. Also, part of tonight's interactive debate is the chance for audience to ask questions. So we have 8 questions up here we're going to ask of the candidates. And then we have time for 2 audience-submitted questions. The way we do that is we're going to give you until question 5 to write down a question in the City Club-provided notepads. We have those on the back table. If anyone needs more notepads, we have John and Roger coming out to deliver them in the most lovely fashion. And we also have little golf pencils if you need something to write with. If anything strikes you as a question, a point you'd like to raise, feel free to write them down. Tear the page out that you write the question down on and raise it up, and Roger or John will come and collect it. Again, you have till question 5 to do that, and then we will read them and collate them. If a bunch of questions are differently worded but about the same topic, we'll sort of rewrite and ask a question on that topic and come up with the 2 best, most intelligent questions of the evening for the gentlemen. Again, if you haven't been to a City Club debate, we do it a little bit differently. We do Lincoln Douglas style, in that we'll have one question, and we've predetermined the order, and each gentleman will get 2 minutes to question and then respond, and then a short rebuttal afterwards. And we've predetermined the order, so it evens out in the end. And I think I was going to ask any questions, but otherwise we're going to get right onto it. Oh, I would like to thank the City Club sponsors, on top of thanking the lovely Chamber of Commerce. So the sponsors for the McMinnville City Club that make all of this happen, we've got in the gold category, Larson Motors, Chemeketa Community College, Western Title and Escrow, McMinnville Area Chamber of Commerce, Columbia Bank, On Point Community Credit Union, First Federal Savings, Gormley Plumbing and Mechanical, and Cellar Ridge Construction. In the silver, we have First American Title Insurance, Payne West Insurance, Hillside Retirement Communities, The News Register, Sokol Blosser Wine, Willamette West Realtors, and in the Cultural Trust we have Stephen Rupp, Philip and Phoebe Newman, Jeb and Michelle Bladine, Dan and Mary Corrigan, and Richard Ulrich. Thank you to our sponsors. Okay, let me get my fancy timekeeping device up. All right. We're going to begin with opening statements and kind of introductory opening statements from each candidate, and then get right into the questions. And in the determined order, we have Mr. Hill leading, and then Mr. Miller will follow. Each candidate has 2 minutes to give a welcoming statement, And we will start with Mr. Hill. Thank you.
Thank you, Zach, and I'd like to thank the City Club and the Chamber for sponsoring this. But more importantly, I would like to thank those that have come out tonight to have the opportunity to meet the candidates and hear what we would have to say. I thought I'd start out with just a little background of who I am. My wife and I moved to McMinnville in 1992 with our two children, Brad and Dara. And during that time, we've been able to participate in the schools. We've been able to be a part of the Park and Recs department. I've been involved in scouting in church. I'll tell you, we really love this community. We fell in love with it 24 years ago, and I'm still in love with it as much today as then. My background, educational, I graduated from Franklin High School in Portland. I went to Brigham Young University and have a Bachelor's of Science in Business Management with a finance specialty and a minor in economics and accounting. For 37 years, I worked for KeyBank or its predecessors, and have had an opportunity to be involved in retail, small business, commercial, and mortgage lending and sales management. 22 years ago, we moved to McMinnville with work, and that's when we were introduced to this community. From a community standpoint, locally, things that I've been involved in, McMinnville Downtown Association, the Chamber of Commerce, United Way of Yamhill County. Okay, again, I have had an opportunity to be very involved in the community, have been very active in city government for about 22 years, being on the budget committee for 22 years, city council for 12 years. Why am I running for mayor? It's because I have a love for this community. I enjoy and I have a passion for small government where you can know what's happening and your voice can be heard. And so that's kind of where I'm at.
Thank you. Mr. Miller, you have 2 minutes.
Hello, and thank everybody for coming out here tonight. I want to also thank the sponsors who helped put this on. I know this is an hour out of everybody's evening, but since this is one of the most elegant rooms in the building, then it's definitely something that y'all could definitely enjoy the time that you're here. I started campaigning when I came to one of the nomination meetings with the Rick Olson, current mayor, as Alan Springer went against him in the May 17 election. I started to inquire about some questions, and I got some deliverance to find out about registering voters, things that I hadn't been in touch with it for some time. In 1997, I got involved with the Downtown Association and worked downtown until graduating year. In 2000 is when I graduated. In that time frame that I worked downtown, I got to get involved with some of the local politics that goes on downtown on 3rd, including some catering and hosting services. In 2000, when I graduated, I enlisted in the military 1 year prior to 9/11. As soon as 9/11 happened, everything downtown basically halted. We trained from then on from the local unit that was here in McMinnville, the infantry unit at the time, and then we deployed. In 2003, relieving the unit of the 9/11. Since the time of that year that I served, we came back and attempted to adjust to regular lifestyle, but ended up fighting forest fires, working the flood in 2005, and then in 2007 we had one around here. In 2009, we again redeployed for the final deployment that I did in the time of service of 12 years that I did in the Guard unit here in McMinnville. During that time, since the 1997 endurement down here on downtown, we worked to see everything develop in those 16 years since 2000 graduation, and I hope to continue to serve doing that, what I've done so far.
Thank you. Scott and I are going to trade Mike here. Question 1 to begin the debate. In your eyes, what is the mayor's role for McMinnville? In your eyes, what is the mayor's role for McMinnville? We have 2 minutes for Mr. Hill, then we'll have 2 minutes for Mr. Miller, then 30 seconds and 30 seconds, and we'll alternate order from there. So question 1 to you.
Thank you. The role of the mayor, in my eyes, starts with the city charter that kind of outlines some of the things that needs to happen. And so the mayor, along with the city council, sets policy for the city through ordinances and through resolutions. I think some of the other things that our mayor is about is building partnerships with the council, city manager, department heads, and other stakeholders, whether that be within the city, the county, and the state. And then lastly, it's building a partnership of trust with the employees of the city. Another thing that's found in the charter is the ability and the need to, we have certain committees that we have set aside in the city charter, and to make sure those committees are filled and that they're actively working. As the mayor, we also have the opportunity to be involved with McMinnville Water and Light as an ex-official chair of their board. And tonight I have an opportunity just to be with them for about 20 minutes before here. And again, they are a quasi-group of the city. I think, really when I think about it, to me it's all about planning, goal setting, focus, listening, learning, and building a vision and a future for the community.
Okay. 2 minutes to you, Mr. Miller.
The role of the mayor in McMinnville, it's a single representation of what the city of McMinnville is and how it stands and how it works. And every city has a mayor, and those policies and those charters are set with the standards of citizens in mind. They have other charters that they follow, as well as ordinances that are involved with the county as well, to include other plans that go into judicial purposes and policies. The role of the mayor, however, seems to put sort of a view on how the city looks, and the input, the proclamations, and some of the roles of its employees are where it's seen the most when you go to a council meeting. I had the luxury of going on to one of the Water and Light Councils, and I had noticed that Ed Gormley, which was really nice to have shook in his hand back when he was on council as mayor, I got to go before him on the board, and now he serves on Water and Light, as well as the outgoing mayor, Rick Olson. I've seen him as a liaison as well. Those sort of democracies are built to succeed, and they have over time, through everything that we've seen, has made McMinnville what it is today. And I'm running for that position to show that the roles themselves need to be outgoing in showing that the citizens have participation. It's not interruption, it's not difficulties, but the mayor himself puts himself in a place where he is accountable for the city's actions as well as what the city plans on doing. He may not vote, and he may not be a member of the voting, but he is a liaison to anything, any facet that the city itself may be fashioned towards to represent the city. Thank you.
As Jared mentioned, we have what is called a strong council, weak mayor system, which means that the mayor does not vote on issues unless it's needed to break a tie. And because of that, I feel the mayor has to build consensus and be very much aware of what the issues at hand would be to bring the council to a consensus of what needs to happen. That doesn't mean that there's not healthy dialogue, but it's a partnershiping and keeping the citizens in mind at all times.
Mr. Miller, 30 seconds to you if you'd like.
The council of the mayor is also made up of other members on the council. There are all requirements for each advisory, each commission, and task force. There is a number league connected with associating the cities and the counties to a proper order. And those are filled and released because sometimes voters and other candidates fill those positions, such as a two-position fill becomes one because they have to close assets. So those are difficult processes to go through that every board goes through as well.
Thank you.
Question number 2 for the candidates. Question 2. Recently, the city has seen some management turmoil. Does the mayor have a role in managing city employees? And is that role any different than other city councilors? Again, question 2. Recently, the city has seen some management turmoil. Does the mayor have a role in managing city employees? And is that role any different than other city councilors? To begin, we have 2 minutes from you, Mr. Miller.
I think that something I have just seen in legislature is that there's two types of points where there's a point where the management and the development goes down onto the employees, and there's information that is needed to be given from someone who is given on another plane, such as in Salem. There would be the House reps that are running for 24 this year, and they will be advocating for the Senate to bring information to us so that it can help provide us with more usage and more land rights on both parties working those endeavors. As the mayor, we focus on the job position of the city manager as well as their legal aid. The rest are appointed by council and by job position. And those sort of positions hold the $155,000 a year for a city manager or $55,000 for a city recorder. But yet the rest of the positions are held incalculable to their own professions that they work, such as council members doing construction and working in their own business, which are assets. Those aren't inputs that the mayor sees unless he's on a budget specifically for those departments. So it's held at the highest respect that those members that have been hired are following through with what the mayor, the council, and the board's requests are for the remainder of the budget and the city manager as well. I believe that the mayor would have a process, considering some of the information from Rick Olson and watching some of the hiring roles when she had gotten hired, as well as they did some evaluation. And going forward with that, to hold the council members in that process is important, as I'm sure they have done on council, to make sure that there's the best spectrum of information to take role into that process of our city manager.
Answering the question, in the city manager's job description, it's outlined that the city manager will manage the staff, and that's done through department heads and through the city manager. Now, the mayor and the city council are responsible for the city manager, and they will manage the city manager. I think it's really critical that there's a lot of dialogue that goes on, and so from my perspective, what I see happening is regular meetings between the mayor and the city manager to keep abreast of what's going on policy procedure, but also on the well-being of staff. I think from my perspective, I anticipate an opportunity, if elected mayor, to meet with department heads on a quarterly basis to see how they're doing and making sure that their needs are being heard and the city managers fulfilling the responsibilities that are needed. Again, from my perspective, it comes back to the council reviews the city manager, the mayor summarizes it and delivers that to the city manager. And so that's how in the job description, the review process and the managing of staff at the city happens.
Thank you. 30 seconds from you. You choose.
Sorry, I got caught up in the other question there. So they're all together there. The city manager on outgoing has been given the opportunity to take leave of pension in the height of what's been going on, and it claims in the paper that she will not file charges against them. I would think that there's some sort of record that I've heard of something needed to be more publicized. The information for that, however, was okay, but there's other incidences in the councils where I would think that there would be more public information relevant to what's happened in the last 20 months if our city manager was not up for the position.
That's done. Thank you. And 30 seconds from you.
And again, with the turmoil that we've had, I think we've handled that appropriate so that we can continue with the governance of this community. again, I think what really needs to happen at this particular time is we move forward, we find the right fit for our community from a city manager's perspective. We're doing that, and having the full backing of the council and the mayor to accomplish that.
Thank you.
Question number 3, again, we have 5 questions, and then we'll cut it off for audience submitting questions. So if you have any, feel free to submit those. Question 3, still a little bit on the manager topic. It appears that the city will be hiring a new city manager. You, as mayor, will have a role in that process. Going forward with the search process, what skills and abilities are most important in McMinnville's city manager? Again, it appears that the city will be hiring a new city manager. You, as mayor, will have a role in that process. Going forward with the search process, what skills and abilities are most important in McMinnville's city manager? 2 minutes for Mr. Hill to start.
The city council has had an opportunity to put together what skills that our city manager needs to have. We've put the job description out yesterday. And we are now taking applications. We're working with a group that specializes in the hiring of city managers. But let me go over some of the things as a council we've talked about. We need an individual that's progressive, one that's visionary, and is able to see into what we are and what we can be. They need to be knowledgeable in all aspects of public administration and governance, and including intergovernmental dealings, a strong background in public administration, in finance, in goal setting, and in forecasting from a financial standpoint. We feel it's so important that McMinnville is not a training ground. We need to have someone that has experience and has a track record that has been proven. One that's a learner, a listener, a builder of relationships within the city and the community, and then also an individual that's able to keep their ego in check from a standpoint of leadership, that they're out to build consensus among staff, community, one that's able to avail themselves of the community and be a part of the community, and most important, an individual that's passionate about the job of city manager and passionate about the community that we live in.
Thank you. 2 minutes for Mr. Miller.
Yeah, I see. I actually went down to the city manager question. That was where I was going with the jobs there. The process of hiring the city manager, Martha Meeker, was 20 months ago. As I had followed through about 7 months ago is when I started to get conjoined with the city council. I came in and had noticed that Ken Taylor had retired, and that they were working to get a new director for the planning commission. And I had noticed that the job criteria was posted, but some of the details were missing, such as the mayor's role itself is not on the web page. So I had inquired and asked about some of the web designs that were on there. Lo and behold, about a month later, the entire format of the page had changed. So we were very excited to get a lot more job descriptions from some of the members that were on there. As far as joining with the city manager's new position, I would hope that Kent Taylor may have some advice to throw in there, being a veteran of the planning commission or working with the city manager position, to be able to raise some really good descriptions that Scott Hill had said that they published, some of the old and with some of the new, adding some vision to the city. I think a lot of that vision would go along lines of the urban renewal district as far as the affordable housing and finding new land for people to live on that would help the economic rate or some of the commercial rate that's around here. As far as with the city manager's boundary lines to work with the industrial area, the new complex projects that would put her back to back with the planning commission director or the planning department director, which is Heather Richards currently. She's the new director for the planning commission. to learn a whole new set of skills that McMinnville has already had. But these two members are going to need a lot from McMinnville, such as Martha had even said here at the Mac Club once upon a time.
Thank you.
To follow up, the process that we will be going through is that we will be vetting a number of individuals through the Propman group that is we're hiring, and we will take the top candidates, and then we will have an opportunity to vet those top candidates through groupings of community members, department and staff members, and then the city council. And then the city council and the mayor will be the entity that makes the final decision on the hire of the city manager.
Thank you. And 30 seconds to Mr. Webb.
Next question. We have question 4. Citizen involvement is often described as waning. Do you feel this is true? If so, what would you do to increase citizen involvement? How much weight should the council and the mayor give to interested groups or citizens that appear before it in making a decision? And what does it mean when the general public does not appear to show up on an issue? I apologize for the length of the question, so I'll read it again. Citizen involvement is often described as waning. Do you feel this is true? If so, what would you do to increase citizen involvement? How much weight should the council and the mayor give to interested groups or citizens that appear before it in making a decision? And what does it mean when the general public does not appear to show up on an issue? And we'll begin the question with 2 minutes from Mr. Miller.
Thank you. I started off with civic involvement. I came in as just a volunteer citizen. I showed up there after Rick and Alan Springer's nominations at the Senior Center. I had met the director there and had started a relationship with some of the individuals that held the meetings, the urban renewal, affordable housing, landscape renewal. We went through a series of different committees and groups that had been relevant to the city itself, and meeting amongst them, the council, firsthand, shaking their hands. The trouble that I had amongst being able to be so talkative with them is that some of the way that the board's rules on the content was enough that I had to raise my hand. It didn't seem that the raising of my hand during a meeting was utilized very much, so I decided to start my own campaign to ask when was appropriate times for a citizen that wanted to be involved would be allowed to speak. So there was some contrast to when was relevant, whether the consent agenda or just public comment was relevant, depending on the person. A lot of times the interested parties come into the council with projections and the proper paperwork that would be presented on a board or a staff meeting, which a lot of us don't attend. So it takes a certain few individuals who are pushing a project that's outside of your own landscape. And a lot of landscape reviews revolve around you needing to hire someone in order to reconcrete, do your driveways, things like that, that revolve around also boards that help to legislate the permission to do those. There's not a lot of people that have that ability to get in there and actually do that, and I do believe that I'm one of those candidates that would be able to do that, and that's why I'm running for mayor as well. So.
Thank you very much. 2 minutes for me.
I've had 22 years as a volunteer here in McMinnville, again, starting with the budget committee. It is a concern to us, citizen involvement, and we've tried a number of things over the 12 years I've been a part of the council. We have taken our city meetings out to schools in the neighborhoods. We have truly tried different formats where we get agendas out earlier. The question is it of a concern? It is of concern, but is there a problem? And I would say no. Let me share with you a statistic. We have 211 full-time employees in the city of McMinnville. When you add all of our volunteers up, 1,350. That is phenomenal when you look at other communities. Now that includes our parks and recreation and the coaches and those types of things, but indeed they are volunteers. I have been on so many committees and I see the level of participation and the level of engagement to be at a very high level. I think a couple of other things that we have done recently. KOYC and David streaming our council meetings, and MCM videoing and getting those out to the people. The coverage by the News Register that they have an opportunity to share with us on a weekly basis what's happening. So again, I think there's always a concern when we don't see people out with us. But I'll tell you today, I would have loved to have 3 times as many people here tonight. But those that are interested and those that feel relevant, the things that we're talking about are here. We live busy lives, but we really want to make available for those that aren't able to be here through things such as the live streaming of tonight's proceedings.
Thank you. 30 seconds, Mr. Miller?
Right, and I honestly agree with that. It's really great that the council itself does push towards the advocacy of citizens being involved for any project. I would like to think that the project itself would be the employment of people who are looking for smaller jobs or things that would account for more civic discipline. I've spoken to the council and made a opposition to walking with the vest on so that people can see you, because there's a lot of people that I know that drive who can't see as well at night as they can during the day, and that helps them be more vigilant.
Thank you.
One other thing
30
that
seconds.
One other thing that we have done that I think has become very helpful to the council is that every 4 to 5 years we do a citizen survey. And we're in the process of doing that, and the survey will be sent out this month and in November. And it gives us some great insight into what the needs and the desires of our citizens are. So again, another proactive way that we have to reach out and involve citizens and hear what they would have to say.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Question 5, our last question that we'll ask before we cut off the audience submitted questions. So again, if you have questions, raise them on up. And John and Roger will, John, I think we got one all the way in the front, and that's going to stress the speedometer for you. Oh yeah, hold on. There we go. 7th inning stretch. Question 5. There are many demands on city resources. Recently, we have heard a call for more funds to be devoted to police services. As mayor, will you advocate for any changes in city priorities in spending the city's money? Where should the changes be? Again, question 5, there are many demands on city resources. Recently, we have heard a call for more funds to be devoted to police services. As mayor, will you advocate for any changes in city priorities in spending the city's money? Where should the changes be? Start with 2 minutes from Mr. Hill.
The process of budgeting is one that we work on all year long. We have been through economic recession that really has taken the value of homes, and that's where most of our money comes from, is through property taxes. So those values have gone down, thus revenues have remained level, and expenses continue to go up, including PERS, which is the retirement vehicle for our employees. I'll tell you a couple of the things that I think that we need to do. The last couple of years, we've gotten away from a process in which our department heads have had input into the needs. And as we move forward with a new city manager, we're going to come back and engage our department heads in the process. These individuals that have ownership of their area know their needs, and they know the resources we have. And I've seen it in times past where they do a phenomenal job in being able to put priority to really when they need help and when they don't need to have help. One other piece I think that we're going to do as a long-term time member of the budget committee is taking a more active role in that, starting with our director of finance and the city manager. As the mayor, I will be very involved in the beginning of the budgeting process and not waiting for the final budget to review it. The other piece that I think that we really need to take a look at is fixed cost and variable cost. Fixed cost we can't do much about, but variable cost we can, and I would like to take a look at going to that zero budget formula and then getting input from our department heads and building up from the ground up.
Thank you very much. Mr. Miller, 2 minutes, same question.
Thank you. The city resources grow with the number of individuals that come to the city. We've hoped to get more people here to enjoy the city and to get to know its historical life, as many of us, if we're not from here, have come here and intrigued for that, to get a taste of something new. There's a way where looking at the budget requires a certain amount of expertise, and individuals who are experts at taking accounts and to being a part of budgets should never have to say that they're going to have to look over the whole budget in the future if there's problems now. I would think that the budget itself is already solidified in an income where we can start something that was already here and be able to use it like a gear, like the employment enrollment or the retired employment system that they have, is something that's been institutionalized in the way where there's 75 individuals that work for a company, and they've been working in that position for the last 75 years. As the city develops, there's roles that are played that are essential, such as now we all need confirmed technological consults that work on websites, and they work on integrating that into citizens' involvement. It allows easier resources to go from a department or another where it would be publicized, but a lot of that still requires the priority of being on the budget, on the board, and there's only a few number of individuals that are allowed to be in those present. And if you're a citizen that's involved, you're not getting paid. So if you want to be a part of that process, to help with the city resources and the funds, you do volunteer work. And some people are passionate about their volunteer work, that's what they do entirely. And that is something that you wear, and that you give back to your communities as well.
Thank you.
Coming from a budget standpoint and from a financial standpoint, our community is well served by the processes that we've been going through. I've had an opportunity again to be sitting on the budget committee for 22 years, and have had an opportunity to be the chair of the audit committee and sitting down with our auditors, and they always are telling us we do a very thoughtful visioning plan for our budget. It's those variable costs such as PERS that may go up 20% a year that we have no control over, and then we have to go elsewhere.
30 seconds to you, Mr. Miller. Could you-
Well, I do know that there was a citizen advisor who came up to the board after the budget had been discussed. I believe Kelly Minke was one of those accountants that was on the council as well as on the budget. Both him and her and Scott Hill had done the budget. And they had worked, and Mark came and said that there was something that needed serious assessment. And he was on a citizens advisory council that worked for the city, that no longer is delegated as a resource for conversation.
Thank you.
Question number 6 for tonight. Question 6 out of our 8 scheduled questions. Then we get to 2 audience submitted questions. Question 6, what is your idea for the future of recycling and waste in our community? Again, what is your idea for the future of recycling and waste in our community? Question 6, we'll start with 2 minutes from you, Mr. Miller.
Right. I've seen a lot of articles and a lot of paperwork on the land use for that area. I've seen some things that had to happen that was told that they had to expand the landfill out there, so they had to push some people out, as per discussed in previous paperwork. But I've also heard ideas that the only people that need to be notified about new work and complex work like construction only need 400 feet from the road. And I think there's a serious need, an important need, to discuss some of those overhauls that have been going on. And there's no way that you're going to presume that you can travel back in time and redo it. A lot of this has been discussed, and it's been in councils and groups and meetings that has identified that the knowledge that they put down will allow the change in the waste and the recycling. However, I've heard a lot of really smart people talk about the way that the landfill is, where I believe that they know more than some people that are in those positions. And I would think that it would be a part of employment, or to help the history, to get someone like a more of a science view on the way that these landfills have been taken. With zero waste, there's some really smart groups of individuals that have worked there and are really trying to get volunteers, but it's science. To get into either using a shovel, working in engineering for the recyclology to build a new facility transfer station, all of those things require a lot of training. Because those are new technological advancements that they're working on. So there's ruts that are occurring as part of those changes that they can't be solved until you find a hard market or something that's going to help revolutionize the system.
My thoughts on recycling and waste in our community. 10 years ago, we had an opportunity at the council level to have a series of learnings on sustainability. And usually sustainability costs more than non-sustainability. And so it seemed to us that, here was something that we were going to be looking at that was going to cost more. But we determined as a council that we were going to go through a series of trainings that helped us understand sustainability and why that was right for our land and why that was right for our community. And over a period of 3 months, we were able to grow our knowledge about sustainability. I would say 5 years later, we had a group that came to us in the open mic portion of our city council, and they called themselves Zero Waste. And they came in and says, here is a group of concerned citizens. We need to do a better job of recycling. And we listened to them, and today we have a partnership with Zero Waste, and we're making great headway. Case in point, probably 3 months ago, Recology came, and Fred came and shared with us that they were in a place now where we could do organic recycling and glass recycling at the curb. And he says, I've got the numbers on that. And so he gave us a little bit, and we turned right around as a council and said, do it. And so today, those that have Recology as your garbage pickup, you've seen notes coming out that now you can have organic material, including yard debris, and also glass being picked up. A lot of headway is being made, and the city's behind that because it's the right thing to do.
Thank you.
I remember when we had kind of a blowout in school where we were all starting to recycle. It was around 2000 that I remember that we started to post coloring books, and there was all sorts of really great Recology information, and they really got started strong. And I haven't seen a lot of that change. I've heard that there's going to be a new change for the transfer station in Recology, but since before that, I've only seen about 5 people on the ground and the rest driving tractors. I would think that there'd be more employment involved with that.
Thank you.
Zero Waste came to the council about a month ago, about a year ago, and talked about the need for us to take a look at using plastic bags at the grocery stores. They are very hard to get rid of. And so council at this point is listening and learning and coming up with a solution that might allow us to do away with plastic bags, and more information coming from that perspective.
Crowd pleasing response. Thank you very much.
We are going to move along to question 7. Question 7, tonight's debate. A major issue that local business has identified as important is a need for a robust and healthy labor force. What should the city's role be in helping, and describe how, if elected, you would address this identified issue? Again, question 7. A major issue that local business has identified as important is a need for a robust and healthy labor force. What should the city's role be in helping, and describe how, if elected, you would address this identified issue? We'll begin with 2 minutes from Mr. Hill.
Good question, and I know the chamber looks at this all the time as they represent business within the community. But I think we all want to have vibrant jobs. We want to have a vibrant economy here. And I'll tell you, some of the ways that we're looking at doing that is our partnershiping with MADP, which is McMinnville Economic Development Group, and Jody Christensen. Now, they are more into preparing land so that viable businesses will come to us. We support them financially at the city level, as does the county, as does Water and Light. That is a phenomenal and very critical partnership that we need to have involved with. Matter of fact, our planning director sits on that board and is a part of that. The other piece, I think, is the Chamber of Commerce, and I've been involved with the Chamber for many, many years, and I know that that's an area that is of concern to them. And our city manager sits on the board of director at the Chamber, and again, we are supportive of the Chamber and the work that they do. I'll tell you, we're very fortunate in our new planning directors, who we've hired, Heather Richards, who's come to us from Bend. Kelly Mankey and myself and Mayor Olson, when we were a year ago at the Oregon League of Cities conference, we had an opportunity to meet Heather and some of the innovative things that she was doing in Redmond to provide economic development. Heather is going to be phenomenally helpful as we move forward to prepare for the visioning and the direction we need to go.
Thank you very much. 2 minutes to you, Mr. Miller. Same question.
I had added some labor force in there. The city itself has employees. The chamber has built a Rolodex of beautiful business owners, people who are running their own employment system. They have their own way to hire and keep more people on, given the advantage given by the city, by the McMinnville Economic Development Project, and the staffing for truck drivers, school bus drivers, all are kind of like training exercises for some people who really want to get into truck driving. So you start driving for a school, it takes a lot of cojones to drive a bus around. It's not exactly the easiest job in the world, but there are people who are built for those jobs. And I think that the creation of those departments have helped to utilize those resources and develop some more roles with the job market. I would think that there is still something more that can be discussed and said to help people to pull into the city of McMinnville and to grab onto the economic development that is occurring. And I know that's in commercial, that's in industrial, even the road improvement plan can increase jobs. The school departments are seeking their bill to create new public works departments. And all of those are creation of jobs for the immediate purpose, but it doesn't instill a permanent home for a lot of those people who typically travel from out of state and they come in from aftermarket businesses to build these large constructs. I'm hoping that as mayor, these buildings that are built will produce more employment for people who are here and that are willing to make a business or work for a business, whether it be even the city of McMinnville.
Thank you.
Two last points that I would have. Number one is the partnerships that we're developing with the school district, with Chemeketa and Linfield. I think we need to have good dialogue with them to support them in building workforces. The other thing that I would do as mayor is something I did when I was the chamber president, and it was called Contact One-to-One. And that would be the desire on my part for the city manager and the mayor to go out and visit with local businesses and see what their needs are so that we can put that on our planning and priorities.
Thank you. And 30 seconds to you, Mr. Miller.
Thank you. I think job shadows and school curriculums are really a valuable tool to build in the workforce. A lot of standards are met by people who hire. There's a lot of pool of people that are out there that are willing to even work part-time jobs as well as to work overtime. a lot of those takes a little value of the management system or the employer to actually get to know people, and sometimes it's not a role of one person. So they have to have a heart, like an HR development, to be able to handle interviews and employments to increase.
Thank you.
And our last scheduled question tonight before going to our two audience submitted questions. Question number 8. Homelessness in McMinnville seems to be a greater problem today than it was in the past. What should the city do to address homelessness? What new steps should the city take? Again, question 8. Homelessness in McMinnville seems to be a greater problem today than it was in the past. What should the city do to address homelessness, and what new steps should the city take? Question 8 will start 2 minutes for Mr. Miller. Thank you very much.
Well, I would hope that there would be a higher view of the budget, such as like the county does. The county has a homeless 10-year plan that I have seen from 2008 that sounds a little far-fetched to put 10 years on the plan and then call it good. So they've tweaked it and renamed it a little bit and put it through some discussions, but it's tough because you have other people who come through the departments that now take over on those leading budgets and grants and bonds that they work on, so they have to take the helm. And in order for them to accomplish those, it requires a certain amount of backing to be able to push the homelessness. A lot of times the issues occur when there's a crime that's increased. I've sat down with as many people that I can find that may have problems on the street, and they spend their time out there wondering what they're going to do next. It reminds me of something that an adult would tell a kid to just go out and play, but what else is there to do? And then you'd have to ask yourself, what other things is this child going to be doing in order to be active? And a lot of these people have grown accustomed to being active in the way that they are. One gentleman that walks on 3rd Street continues to walk the street regularly, and I continuously converse with him, and he's got the nicest things to say. However, he doesn't have a home, and I've never asked him if there was an honest way that he was going to live. Some people out there have accredited that, but yet they've still been pushed from centers to centers, which again, that's a part of a plan that's been tasked. I don't really see some other councils doing it as much as I would believe the title would be, but affordable housing is something that will help delegate brackets of housings, multifamily housings for people to lower the homeless rate.
Thank you.
To answer the question, yes, it is a growing problem. But I think there's a misnomer sometimes. Does homelessness affect the city? And my answer is yes. It does affect the city. The misnomer out there is that the city has money for homelessness. And to be very honest, the state, the federal government and the state works through the county, through family and human resources. And that's where our money is for those that have mental and other needs. And so everyone will look to the city and say, why don't we do something about it? We don't have the money to do that. And so what can we do? And to be very honest, we can be proactive with our partners out there. We've had a lot of dialogue over the last couple of years with the churches that have taken a more aggressive stand to help those that are homeless. And most recently, we have put some money into providing restrooms for those that are on the street. But more importantly, looking for established avenues such as the Gospel Rescue Mission, and we have supported them in their capital campaign to provide homes for those that are on the street, especially during critical winter months when the weather is bad. So again, forming of the partnerships and bringing the players to the table, the city has done and will continue to do. The one thing that we can do, though, is affordable housing. The affordable housing is allowing homes to be built that can allow people to get into. And we're dealing with reducing our service development charges so that it can bring more affordable housing to the table, and we're dealing with that as we speak. So if you want to continue to see what we're going to do for affordable housing, come to the next couple of council meetings, because we'll be talking about that.
Thank you very much. 30 seconds. Do you respond, Mr. Miller?
The Union Gospel Mission, I've been down there firsthand, and they're building a new cuticle. It's a manufactured home. That's what both of those homes are going to be built on. The Gospel Mission houses a one-flooring unit. There's 2 of them, and they're moving it from 1719 to 30 max capacity. And I do know that there is a lot of asset that could be used to help that. However, there's a lot of identification of the types of people who abuse those, which is where a lot of the city management opposes that kind of assistance in light of the abuse that's taken on the home, especially with real estate agents.
It's full time. Thank you.
And the last comments I would have on this is that we also have an affordable housing committee that is dealing. We have 3 members of the council that are on that. We have individuals that represent the county, and we have citizens that are on that committee. And again, it's an area that we're continuing to look at and bringing solutions to the table.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. That concludes the pre-scheduled questions. We have 2 audience-submitted questions we're going to ask here. I was told that all of them were very great, so thank you very much for taking the time to submit a question. And we've distilled them down to 2 questions. And question number 1 will go to a minute each from each gentleman. We'll start with Mr. Hill, and then Mr. Miller, and then we'll start with Mr. Miller, and then Mr. Hill. A minute each to deal with the question. Question number 1. As a public official in a leadership position, what do you see as the mayor's role and potential impact with regard to police, citizen, business relations, and the homeless downtown policing policies in particular? Again, let me reiterate the question. As a public official in a leadership position, what do you see as the mayor's role and potential impact with regard to police, citizen, business relations, and the homeless downtown policing policies in particular? Question 1, we'll start with 1 minute from Mr. Hill. Thank you.
From a perspective of what I will be doing as a mayor if elected with policing, and that is to listen to their needs. We met with the police department about a month ago and heard of the need that we really need to bring additional men on board, or women on board there. We have added 3 officers, and so we're listening. We've done the same with fire. So safety is of the utmost importance. I shared with you that one of the thoughts that I would have as mayor is the ability and desire on my part to go out and talk to businesses and hear their concerns, whether that be on 3rd Street, whether that be on the outsides of town. It's something that I feel is very important. We will listen to our experts on how to police the downtown. We've come up with some innovative ways, but I think we can even do a better job in the future.
Thank you. And 1 minute to you, Mr. Miller.
Well, I'm not going to say that McMinnville, isn't one of the best cities I've ever been in. It's valuable, and it's consistently growing. The more time I spend in it, the more I learn from it. The leadership role is something that I believe the mayor does as well. He's committed to all that the city has to offer. When the police have trouble and they ask for assistance, he searches for a way to help them out. There are departments that articulate all of the mayor so that he almost doesn't need to do any of that because he's so advocated. He's a person of interest to every department in McMinnville. I believe that things like policing is involved with witnesses, people coming forward and speaking up, and that's a matter of almost conversation. Just being seen and identifying yourself helps the police to know you better if you want to be a part of the process, as well as with the business that the mayor has goes through the chamber and MEDP if they need to utilize some advocacy.
Thank you.
And question 2 submitted from the audience tonight. Question 2, and this will start with Mr. Miller and then we'll close with Mr. Hill. What are the unique challenges for McMinnville as a city seated in the county of Yamhill? What are the unique challenges for McMinnville as a city seated in the county of Yamhill? 1 minute each. We'll start with you, Mr. Miller. Thank you.
Thank you. The Yamhill County is seated in McMinnville. It's got all of its advisory boards that are participated with other members of the county, as well as the city. The homelessness needs advocacy. I would bring a advisory council back, and I would actually advocate for people to identify themselves without having any formality to it, to get something like creating a code or working with legislature who never has. As being a part of a public official, I would push to the county information that should be relevant to the seat of Yamhill. As mayor, it would be pushed to conduct every advisory group to the council if needed at any point in time to the county commissioners, as well as any people that would need it on any council that would be ordained to that.
Thank you.
I think one of the unique opportunities that we have here in McMinnville is the working with Yamhill County. We both are in the same, located in the same city, but we have some different directions. And as mayor, I would work tremendously hard to partnership more with the county and to be able to, if you might say, create economies of scale in what we need, that we both are working on together. Again, it's a uniqueness, and we each have different directions. But I think by far that is the thing that we can work on and advocate together. And I think the mix of the county commissioners are in a position now to be willing and able to work with us more hand in hand.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. That concludes the questions. We're going to give it 2 minutes each candidate to close it up with closing statements to sort of wrap up their sentiments for the evening, and not in the question format. Just give us 2 minutes each to close it up, and we're going to start that with Mr. Hill and close it with Mr. Miller. So 2 minutes for you, Scott.
Well, thank you for the opportunity to be able to share thoughts this evening. I can tell you I am passionate about the city of McMinnville. When I came to visit this community 25 years ago, there was a uniqueness about this city. There was something that I continue to call livability that I did not find in Portland. With my work, I had responsibility for a number of communities that we banked in, and so I know a lot of the communities in the Willamette Valley, and we by far have the most unique livable community that I've seen. That's the passion that drives me to continue to serve. I look at my service in the community as, I don't mean to put it, but it's my hobby. It's what I enjoy to do. You know how hobbies sometimes take over what you're all about? I've been retired for 2 years, and my hobby is the city of McMinnville. I'm passionate about it. I have experience. I have learnings. And I feel that we're in a position right now where we are seeing changes on the council. We're bringing new individuals on, and a desire on my part to stay around to help transition us to putting into practice and putting into place those things that we've worked so hard to do. The urban renewal and the things that we're doing down on Alpine Avenue, the transportation plan that's going to make this community a better place to get around, our Visit McMinnville, the ability to enhance those, what I call a clean industry of tourism coming here. Those are the things that I'm passionate about, and to make sure that we can continue along that heritage which is ours here in McMinnville.
Thank you. 2 minutes for you, Mr. Miller. Close it up.
Well, I'm running for mayor to seek all of the job descriptions that would be profiled for the job of mayor. I believe myself to be a great advocate Some might even say that it might be the youngest mayor if that was elected. I'm not sure. I'm 35. I ended up leaving to serve in the military in 2001. And when I was here, as well as going through high school, there was so much livability to McMinnville. We thrived, businesses were flourishing, and the rain never stops us here. It keeps things going. I would like to bring back more citizen advisory. I would like to build more of a foundation to have citizens be involved, no matter how small it is, just for information. Like a connection between Chemeketa and Linfield, so that they know that they're still in the city of McMinnville, and to come to the mayor's house in order to be involved and to advocate for the city of McMinnville. I know that the board themselves for the city of McMinnville holds seats in the city, such as construction, wine industry, and those are hard to find. Those are professions that need to be filled in McMinnville, and there's equality that goes through that. But what I'm seeking as mayor is to assemble more of an equality between the citizens and the politics, so that the information is still provided and the councils themselves are not interjoined with constant information that may not even pertain to the council, but to give the city a gateway to become involved again and to be able to advocate on their own. Thank you very much for letting me speak.
Thank you very much. On behalf of the McMinnville City Council, or the McMinnville City Club, there's a lot of city councils floating around here. On behalf of McMinnville City Club and McMinnville Area Chamber of Commerce, thank you very much for coming out tonight, and a round of applause for our candidates. I've heard it been said that running for office is like running naked through the streets, so thank you very much to you both. But I think we came together tonight and we showed up tonight to listen to two guys debate their ideas for mayor and maintain a high level of civility and an open sharing of ideas. So thank you very much to these two men and to all you tonight for coming out. It's really nice in this climate to be able to do that. Again, this is McMinnville City Club. We do this every month. We have an upcoming program coming up. If you'd like any more information on the McMinnville City Club, we've got information back there. Otherwise, thank you, good night, and bike safe.